we love ScarJo and Pugh. That's not good.
Pugh, ScarJo, Pugh. I mean,
that sounds like a medicine that you don't know what exactly it helps in the commercial.
Side effects include, like you got that Pugh. All right, so we're gonna do Black Widow, and then Jojo Rabbit, right? That's what you watched, and then Midsommar, which is what I watched, and
I will never watch.
Well, I mean, for good reason. We'll get into that later, but so it's kind of like a masterpiece of ScarJo and Florence Pugh, or however you say her name. Is it Pug? Is it like Pug?
No, it's just
Pugh.
Oh, okay. You don't have to put the Pugh accent on it. It's just Pugh.
Okay.
This is kind of a tribute episode. This is kind of a, we love ScarJo and Pugh. That's not good.
Pugh, ScarJo, Pugh. I mean,
that sounds like a medicine that you don't know what exactly it helps in the commercial.
Side effects include, like you got that Pugh.
Okay, man. Let's start with Black Widow. Let's get into it. That's a great start.
Thank you. Do you want to go first, or I can go? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Man.
Okay.
Black Widow is finally, we're getting a standalone Natasha Romanoff movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I was wondering if it was going to bug me after having seen it, because going into the movie, I thought, it's kind of a weird time to be getting a Black Widow movie. I don't think we need to worry about spoilers at this point. I think the entire world has seen Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, where Black Widow gives her life to get the Soul Stone, which that took place in 2019. And now we're getting a movie in 2021 about Black Widow set in the past.
2015, right? Because it's in the events after, it's after Captain America Civil War. Because they're fugitives.
Yeah, so 2016. 5 years ago, whatever it is. So I thought that was a little weird to be doing it finally. And we finally do get this standalone movie for Black Widow. And she's not even the star of the movie. Because when you go see this, no disrespect to Scarlett Johansson. She's done wonderful with the character. Really enjoyed her in the MCU. But Florence Pugh plays Yelena, her younger sister, also a Black Widow, the same training that they got. Absolutely steals the movie. It's really, really frustrating because I feel like they could have done so much with this character and with this movie. I just want to go on record and say I did like the movie. I did enjoy it. It is a good flick. You probably should see it in the theater for a lot of the really cool action sequences. But it's still, I think, to me, the worst Marvel movie now. Kind of like we talked about Luca. It's still Pixar, so it's still good, but I think it's the worst one of the bunch. I just had some issues with it. I'll just kind of run down a little bit of it. Again, she's not even the star of the movie, which I guess isn't really her fault. Florence Pugh just really knocked it out of the park in a major way.
If you do think about it, because technically the whole time the spy program and the assassin program that they create is called Black Widow, and they're called the Widows. So, technically maybe you can consider that everyone that's in that program is a Black Widow. Just some things to think about.
No, you're right. You're right. I just think, it definitely wasn't presented that way. It was very much so promoted. Like, finally, we're going to get a Black Widow movie. So maybe you have a point. I didn't think about that this is really supposed to be, which is kind of a slight to Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow character, Natasha Romanoff, being used as a bridge.
She's all these years as her own character as Black Widow, and then it's like, it's just a name that they give, like 007, I guess, because technically it's not always like whatever the moniker of 007 is like just the name. It's not an actual person or something. I don't know. I can't remember that lore. But anyway, yeah. So it's like they use that bridge to do that, or use her as a bridge, like you said. So,
but there were some issues I had with the movie. The number one issue I had that I was so pissed off is the trailer was so good that the theme music that they had, like the synth that they had going, doesn't appear in the movie. No. Which I thought it really created a mood of the movie that you're about to see. The trailer was so badass.
Yeah.
Not in the movie, so I was a little annoyed by that. It's kind of like when you see a really funny scene in the trailer and it's been cut from the final cut, and you're like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah.
The accents in the movie are a little suspect, to say the least, and they kind of come in and out. Like,
yeah,
if you're Russian, okay, but why are you flip-flopping back and forth from Russian to American when you don't need to?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Natasha, I kind of understand because I think she's left that behind. Like, she just takes on the American accent.
Yeah.
But the Red Guardian character played by David Harbour,
oh my God,
really he fluctuates for no reason.
Yeah.
I did like the slowed down Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, the slowed down
showing run. All the spies and everything at the beginning.
Yeah, which I didn't care for that montage because a lot of the depth that I feel the characters, especially the villain, lacked, we could have gotten instead of just speed running through a montage of spy history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like the stakes were never that high because we really didn't know about this character, this villain, you know, how this Red Room came about and what his, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't really fill in the lines a whole lot. You know, the whole movie to me kind of felt like, you know, it's been 11 years now, it's been 13 years now of
13,
yeah. We finally get a Black Widow movie. It's kind of like when somebody was like, "Oh, I was going to tell you something. Oh, I was going to tell you something." You know, they've been trying to like, and they finally remember what they're going to tell you. It's like, "Oh yeah, I saw a dog the other day." Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the payoff of this movie felt like. Like, oh, we finally remember what we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's this movie. And it's like, well, I'm really glad Florence Pugh is there. What'd you think?
So I liked it like you did. I think if they changed the character names but didn't change like any of the plot, you wouldn't have really realized it was a Marvel movie, I feel like, because the way that Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man it wasn't a normal Marvel movie because yes, he was a superhero, the super suit and all that other stuff, but it was like a heist movie, a funny heist movie which just happened to have like superheroes sprinkled in. This just felt like a spy movie with like maybe one little thing, and it was, the Red Guardian was the only person that had superpowers. And then I guess I don't know if it was such superpowers or just because of the mind control thing, but the bad guy, the Taskmaster, which was cool. Like I like that villain in it. He's like a villain of Deadpool usually, and Spider-Man and all that other stuff. So I think Captain America as well. So it was cool to have that, in there. But I felt like if you didn't use any Marvel anything, you wouldn't have known it was a Marvel movie because of that. So like I said, it was a good movie, but just didn't feel like a Marvel movie, just because of it was like a spy movie that had some really powerful people. So I mean, they were on the run, or Natasha was on the run from the government, and was planning on breaking out her friends and doing all that other stuff. It had some cool little illusions, like she had the blonde hair dye that she was going to eventually do before she get into Infinity War. There was the captain, he was talking about Captain America, the Red Guardian, the whole time, and it was funny when that big guy comes up to arm wrestle him, and then he's just like, oh, and he goes, and just like destroys his arm, which was hilarious. And then he's just like, what? And then and David Harbour just did an amazing job. I know Florence Pugh did, which her performance was anything but Pugh. I wanted to sprinkle that in. So I was waiting for that. I know it's terrible, but I think that pretty much everyone did a great job. Rachel Weisz was one of those. Speaking of which, we'll go ahead and start this segment now. Rachel Weisz, what are you doing here? Because I feel like of all the people, she was like the one that I was like, what are you doing here? Because I mean, I don't think she's won an Oscar for anything, but I think of her as like a classical actress and all that other stuff. Like she did The Mummy, but then she got into like some independent films and everything like that. And then just kind of appeared in this. And I was like, oh, okay, Rachel Weisz. When she was the younger part, I was like, I feel like that's Rachel Weisz, just like they de-ageified her, which is what they do in a lot of Marvel movies, but it wasn't like she needed it really that badly. But to be that young in 1994, I think it takes place, or 93, somewhere in that area is when the movie starts,
right?
When they're kids. But it was just, she was de-ageified to where she looked like she was in The Mummy kind of, and was just like, I think that's her, but I can't really be sure. And then it was like, oh yeah, it is, because it had the montage and it said Rachel Weisz. I'm like, yep. So it's just, what are you doing here?
I think because she's married to Daniel Craig, she sees those James Bond paychecks and she's like,
maybe I'll get
a huge franchise.
Yeah.
Check. I'll do that.
I mean, the Mummy money is probably run out a little bit, although I do love it. Brendan Fraser's awesome and everything, but I'm sure that, ago. It was, 99 was the first one, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, but yeah, I like the movie and it just, the ending where they finally defeat the villain and all that other stuff, or I mean, she fights him or whatever. It just kind of made sense, but it was just kind of like, okay, like the pheromone whole thing and all that.
Were you a little annoyed at the Mission Impossible ripoff?
Which part? With the
I don't want to spoil
helicopter?
It. No.
The helicopter at the end?
Like the big twist when you're like, oh.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of, a little bit. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we've seen this.
Yeah.
Several times before.
And it's like, but that's the thing, like we didn't see that at all in the MCU, and then they just kind of have this technology, which was not annoying, but I can understand why it was used in spy stuff. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to say it was predictable, but it was just kind of like, I knew something was going to happen to where the tables were turned, but I just didn't think it was that. And then I was like, oh, so yeah, I didn't even think about Mission Impossible, but it does make sense now. And I'm just like, spy movie. So you're stealing from a lot of spy movies.
I was going to say, it felt kind of tropey. There were definitely some cliches throughout.
Yeah.
Did you see this in the IMAX?
No, just little theater in San Marco, Jacksonville area. So with a single, or it has 2 movie theaters, but it's just like a single screen movie theater. So it's kind of cool place.
So I'm going to come off as a wimp big time in this episode, because we're going to talk about why I'm a fraidy cat a little later on. But now I watched in the IMAX, in the entire final sequence when they're basically in free fall.
Yeah.
So I have a really, really, really bad case of fear of heights. I don't like it at all. And so I'm like, like they're, where's a parachute? Grab a parachute. Like, it was the way it was shot. You're like in that free fall with Natasha. And anyway, I don't.
That was really cool, though.
It was really cool. But there were times where I was like,
shot. Oh yeah, in IMAX, I can see that it's just like
we call that a pucker moment. Is what
a pucker moment.
Shout out to my uncle Andy. That's a pucker moment.
That's the technical term. They use that in the film industry. Don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. So yeah, Black Widow. Yeah. I'd give it. I mean, it's a thumbs up. It's a fun summer action. It's a Marvel flick, but I'd probably give it 2 stars.
2 stars. Yeah, I'd say thumbs up. I'd say 3 stars, just because I did enjoy it. It was a nice refresher to see a Marvel movie in the theaters again.
That's true.
I will admit this. You might be able. We could talk after this, so you can tell me exactly what happened if it did. But I did not stay through the credits like I 100% do all the time. I forgot to do that this time. I was with a lady friend, and we kind of walked out, and so I was like, I forgot about it as I was driving, and I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot to watch the credits. But I was like, I'll just watch it on YouTube or something, because I'm sure it's posted. But I forgot to look it up before this, so I'm like,
I was gonna say, you didn't Google it. I'm so proud that you were able to well, I guess
out entirely.
You didn't purposely do it. You just completely forgot.
Completely forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just like the movie itself, it's just a bridge to the next thing.
Okay. Yep.
Kind of
That's
cool. Yeah,
probably.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Well, I think that like even though this was a good movie, 3 stars, 1 thumbs up. I honestly think that because I feel like they could have given us way more information, but they gave us the not necessarily wrong information. They just didn't give us enough or right information about this that I would have liked to have seen this as a limited series like WandaVision or Winter Soldier and almost said Winter Soldier and Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then Loki. I haven't started Loki yet, but like I think
Yeah.
that it could have been called Romanoff, and then that way it wouldn't be the Black Widow illusion or whatever, but be something like that to where she would get more. Because I mean, like you said, 13 years later, she's finally getting her single series. And I mean, so many people, I know it was supposed to be released last year, but with COVID and all that other stuff, I feel like all of the other limited series, it was like, look at these characters that, were in this well after her that had these amazing storylines. And then here's this movie that kind of was okay.
Mhm.
So I think they could have done a little better, but who knows, maybe Scarlett Johansson's just done with it and just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So the movie's fine. I don't need a limited series or anything like that. So.
Well, maybe that itch of yours will get scratched when you find out what happens in the post-credit scene.
Oh no. Okay, good.
Yeah. How's that for a tease?
Oh man. Let's end this podcast now because I need to know. I'm just kidding, of course.
Well, we can get quickly to your movie because JoJo Rabbit won't take me very long.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson appears in this, so that's kind of the tribute. We were looking for new releases, and there weren't really any that were in the theaters near us. We kind of looked through the streaming services. There weren't anything that really jumped out at us that we needed or wanted to watch. So we decided to do a little bit of a tribute. I watched a ScarJo movie, and you watched
Flo
Pugh movie that you hadn't seen. So I watched JoJo Rabbit, which is directed by Taika Waititi.
Which he's awesome. Did you ever see What We Do in the Shadows that he did?
No, and I know you've mentioned this before, and I feel bad because I still haven't seen it because I didn't really. You told me about What They Do in the Shadows like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then Taika Waititi directs Thor Ragnarok. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the best Marvel movie. It's so funny and awesome. And you're like, yeah, you should watch that show I told you about 4 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was 2014 is when What We Do in the Shadows came out. And that's why I thought you would like it because it's in the style of, it's a mockumentary basically about vampires in New Zealand. And it's just hilarious that, has Taika Waititi as kind of the main character. He's, the one that kind of set up this whole thing. And just he brings like a date home, but he's going to feast on her. And then he puts down like all these newspapers on the couch and he's like trying to be nice and neat. And then, she's hypnotized. So he bites into her and it like sprays everywhere. It's like, oh, got it on the couch and I got it. And it's just everywhere. But it's just funny that the fact that a vampire is like, trying to be good about not getting blood everywhere, but then still does. And it's just like, that's just so weird and funny. And then Hunt for the Wilder People, he did a couple years later, which Rhys Darby, who's in both those movies, another great New Zealand, Australian actor. I think it's New Zealand. I feel it's insulting if I call them Australian and they're not. But a New Zealand actor who's just awesome. But Taika Waititi with that. And then he's also doing Thor Love and Thunder, if I'm not mistaken. And and I think he did some stuff in Guardians 3 because I think there's like a little bit of crossover there. So I think he was helping James Gunn with that, if I'm not mistaken. So
cool.
Because I think Korg's in there because he's Thor's friend. Terrible accent. I'm so sorry. But anyway, sorry. New Doug. So go ahead with JoJo Rabbit, though.
Listening to you describe episodes of What They Do in the Shadows is better than JoJo Rabbit, an actual movie.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Okay.
JoJo Rabbit has a very specific audience. And the audience that likes that movie is going to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I might love it, but yeah, like I might be one of those ones you're talking about. So
I don't know. I really don't think you like it. Quick synopsis: Little boy is probably like 10 years old. He's a Hitler Youth during World War II. and his imaginary friend, played by Taika Waititi, is Adolf Hitler, but a very goofy, bird-like, quirky version.
Mm-hmm.
Scarlett Johansson plays his mom, and she is hiding a girl who is a Jew in their house. And the boy finds out, and he has to reconcile, the hate that he's been taught versus learning about this real human. It's just, to me, it's shot like a Wes Anderson movie. Like, it looks like when all the little boys are lined up in their Nazi garb, it looks like, was it Moonrise Kingdom when they're all the Boy Scouts?
In the camp. Yeah, the Boy Scout camp thing. Yeah.
Well, I hate Wes Anderson movies. So when I see this, I'm like, oh God, okay. It's quirky, not funny. There's a real manipulative moment between the boy and ScarJo that I'm like, okay, I don't know. I didn't like anything about it. The little boy, though, his best friend is a pudgy little kid with glasses. He's really funny. He has some scene-stealing lines throughout that are pretty good. Actually, it made me think of you because it looked like if Simon Pegg and Nick Frost
were like super young.
We're super young together. Like the guys from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. If those two guys were young,
it was that.
That was like could have been like their origin story, how they met, and that's those are the two actors that would have played them if they did a flashback sequence. That was the only enjoyment I got out of it. The funny parts fell flat for me. Again, really bad accents. I thought that was kind of a funny parallel to Black Widow. Sam Rockwell plays a Nazi officer, and I don't know what accent he's doing.
But it's not good.
It's not good. I don't know. It kind of goes back and forth. So,
because he's American, right? Sam Rockwell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, I mean, Sam Rockwell was Jackson Hammer in Thor 2, which was Natasha Romanoff's first movie.
So there's a scene where Scarlett Johansson's character knees him in the nuts, Sam Rockwell. So I was like, it's like Natasha versus Justin Hammer all over again.
Is it Justin Hammer? Oh, Jackson Hammer. He's Venture Brothers. Sorry, he's a creator on Venture Brothers. But Justin Hammer, yes, he's. Sorry, I'm getting my hammers mixed up.
No, it's fine. You know the Family Circus cartoon? Like sometimes your brain is like the way the boy gets into the house, he goes through all these things first through the backyard.
Yeah.
That's how that's how both our minds work, I feel like.
I was gonna say you're one to talk.
No, that's a compliment. That's not
I know.
I'm not putting you down.
So roundabout ways, like we think, just
But when she did that, I was like, she got him again. So
nice.
Jojo Rabbit. I'd give it 1 star. It wasn't for me. Like I can tell the people who are into it are gonna love it.
Yeah.
But it was a total misfire for me personally. So I don't think you'll like it. There are a couple of funny things at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like it totally I was disinterested. A lot of things fell flat, like I said. So anyway, that's Jojo Rabbit. We're going to do the Florence Pugh appreciation, the Flo Poo appreciation part in a movie that we can make fun of me a little bit for this because I will not watch it. Depending on what you say, I may watch it. You did Midsommar.
Yes. So Midsommar, it came out a few years ago. I think it was actually 2019 was when it came out. It's by the director, Ari Aster, I believe his name is, did Hereditary. So like you, if you ask me like, hey, do you want to watch a scary movie? I'm going to be like, no, but then I'll eventually force myself to. And then if it's like scary enough, I'll just be like, well, that I didn't like it, but I watched it. And then I'm like, but that's fine. And it's in the daylight, and then night comes around, and then my brain gets crazy, and I'm just like, okay, I can't sleep now because of this. It could not be 100% like movies aren't real and everything, but I'm just like, sometimes I'll sleep and I'm like, okay, I heard that. That's something. But this one is not necessarily like scary so much as it is disturbing. So what it is, Florence Pugh's character, Danny, she is, her very beginning, she's emailing back and forth with her sister and looking at this email that says that, her sister can't deal with it anymore. It's mental illness issues, and she said, I'm taking mom and dad with me. And so you find out that basically her whole family dies because her sister hooks up the hoses to a car and then like basically exhausts everyone into death, which is like insane. But so it's, you know, that, so she's by herself, basically orphaned, even though she's, you know, 23, 24, something like that. And her boyfriend is very, very unsupportive. And like it cuts to a scene like when her parents are doing this, or her sister's doing this, that, you know, her boyfriend's like out with his friends and they're like, you need to drop her, and like she's just no fun and all that other stuff. And then she calls and it's like, oh, it's like just sobbing, and you know where it's going. And then all of the guys are doing research on just, they're anthropologists, so they're studying just small town rituals and things like that. So they go to this place in Sweden, and they're celebrating the festival called Midsommar. And you know, you think that they one of the guys has done a lot of research on like this festival and kind of knows it, but doesn't really know, because you know, the elders don't let people write stuff down. They don't take pictures. They don't really let outsiders come in, but they did this year. And essentially what it is, it's a 9-day feast that all this stuff starts happening. And in this part of Sweden, I guess the sun is always out because it's that time of year in the north that, you know, it's like 6 months of light or whatever. So there's no real dark scenes, which is what makes it really uneasy, because a lot of this death and disturbing imagery and all that stuff happens in broad daylight, which is like not a typical scary movie. So it's just, you know, there are some dark scenes just because they go into like a barn and they have to turn off all the lights, but there's always like light coming through, and they have to block out the sun and all that stuff. And it's great cinematography, I feel like, and just all of this stuff where, you know, they have, I won't get into too much, but there's like, you know, a ritual that the older people are talking about, their life cycle is like the seasons. So like when you're 1 to 18, you're in the spring, so you go around and play. Or no, I'm sorry, not 18. Oh yeah, it's 18. 1 to 18, summer, all that stuff. Then 19 to 36 is your summer, and then that's when you go out and you know, meet people and do their outing and all that stuff, kind of like the Amish do. And then when in the fall, when they're 37 and to 54, they come back and you know, work and do all that stuff. Then their winter ends at 72, and then it's like, what happens at 72? And they're like, oh well, we die. And it's like, okay, so you see something similar to that, which is just disturbing, and they kind of flash back throughout. So it's not, there's no jump scary, no nothing like that, that it's just like disturbing, and you're kind of like, when things happen, you're like, oh my God, like it just makes you feel real uneasy. And I guess I think all of this is like, if you watch the movie, it's a metaphor for mental illness and dealing with things like loss and all that other stuff. So I guess like Ari Aster did when he did Hereditary was along the same lines, that if you'd watched that, which that one kept me up at night. Midsommar didn't, but Hereditary is like, oh my gosh, that's creepy. So but a lot of his scary movies deal with like, it's a metaphor for like real world issues and things like that. So I can't remember the Hereditary thing, but it's always along the lines of like mental illness and things like that, and depression. Oh, this one is depression. Midsommar's depression. The other one was mental illness, Hereditary. So it's a good movie. I recommend watching it in the daylight, because it's a very bright movie anyway. If you watch in the dark, I feel like you go blind because of how bright it is, just because it's so bright. Yeah. But I would say it's, I give it a thumbs up and 3 stars. So I guess both my movies today are thumbs up, 3 stars, but it's something that I recommend. Like I said, and I know you said you don't watch scary movies. Is there like a specific reason, or you just don't like jump scares, or, because I don't think that's ever come up in our 20 plus year friendship. Like we've never really talked about scary movies. So
yeah, man, I don't like jump scares. Because you know, you just kind of get settled in, you're watching a movie, and then something jumps out, and I'm like, no, man, I don't want to be on edge. And I just have, I don't know if it's an active imagination or if I'm just a scared little wimp, but like, yeah, at nighttime, like when I go to bed, that stuff creeps into my mind, and I remember that. I'm like, so I'm, you know, am I seeing a shape over there in my room?
Yep.
Or so yeah, I don't care for it. And what's really pissed me off is 2 things.
Yeah.
It's become trendy, and I blame Jordan Peele for this. Like, if he could
Yeah.
just, if he could have just stayed with Key and Peele and made sketch comedy
Yeah.
and not horror movies that get super popular, then
Yeah.
other movies wouldn't be doing jump scares. And it's kind of creeped into other genres now, where there's like
Yeah.
to kind of catch you off guard, to like rattle you. That's
Yeah.
annoying. And now they're doing it in trailers, and they're playing those trailers in front of movies, you know? So
Oh yeah.
if I'm going to see, like, I don't know, what was it? Crazy Rich Asians, a rom-com, a laid-back romantic comedy, and then they
Yeah.
show a preview before it for The Nun. Hey man, don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm here with my popcorn and my ginger ale, enjoying a rom-com, or about to, and The Nun from, like, the Conjuring, is it the Conjuring series?
I think so. It's all connected, I'm sure.
All of them go to hell. Stop doing it. I don't like it. I was watching what did we just review? Zola. I think it was Zola.
Zola, yeah.
The preview for Candyman comes on.
Oh, I saw the preview for Candyman in this movie. So
damn it, man! Like, and now that trailer wasn't as bad, but I'm like, it's creeping. It's like
Jordan Peele. That's his movie. So
yeah. So anyway,
I just imagine you're sitting there with popcorn, and then you're like, and you're like, there goes my one free refill. It's not even the movie yet.
Yeah. Now, so there are other horror type movies that I don't mind. Like The Shining is one of my all-time favorite movies. That's more of like a
awesome.
creep factor. Slasher stuff doesn't bother me, like Halloween, the Jason movies. Child's Play scared me when I was a little kid, but when I watch it now, it's not that bad.
Gremlins scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. I thought they were living in basements at my friend's house. Yeah. Like, I was like, this is terrifying, but it's a kid's movie for like kids. And I'm like, this is not a kid's movie. It's terrifying. So I just never understood that.
So, but the jump scares, like The Strangers or Insidious and The Conjuring. The ones where it slowly creeps and you can, the feeling in your stomach is building because you know that it's about to happen, and then no, I don't want that at all. I don't like
none
it
of that in Midsommar, but Hereditary though has that, and it's a lot of uneasiness, and I think the music plays a really good part in that. That like stuff happens off screen and everything to where it's like comes on immediately, but you can see it like in the tiny little, like right here in the corner, it's like whoop, and it's gone. You're like, what was that? And then from down here, and you're like, oh, okay. And then I think one of the worst decisions I ever made was to see It 2 in theaters with Jared and Lindsay. So they were like, they invited me over one time and we watched the first It because we were going to go see It 2. And I'm like, I don't like this, but I watched it. And then I was like, let's go see this in theaters. I'm like, okay. And that's like probably one of the worst decisions I ever made. But yeah, it's just like, that's probably the first like scary movie I saw in theaters. And I was like, this might be my last, because I can't control it and pause it if I'm like, okay, I'll come back to this. So, but I torture myself for some reason to do that.
Yeah. So. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, nah, like if I were to visit somebody out of state and they're like, hey, I'm going to go watch this, I'll be like, cool, you go do that for a couple hours. I'm going to walk around the mall or stay here. You let me know how it is, because I will not be doing that to myself. I've creeped myself out way too many times. So yeah, if anything even remotely comes out that's like horror genre, I'm usually out. So you're gonna have to. I'll
review it. I really don't want to, but I will.
No, we could just not do scary movies.
Well, that's okay. I'll do this. I'll bite the bullet. Although my lady friend doesn't like scary movies either, so it's like, this will be fun.
Okay. All right. So Black Widow, we both give it a thumbs up. Jojo Rabbit, go at your own peril. You might like it, you may hate it like I did. Just felt weird to be doing a whimsical comedy
in Nazi Germany.
Emotional, because there's some real emotion and some depth in it. But surrounded around Nazi Germany in the 40s, kind of odd. But Midsommar, you give it a thumbs up, 3 stars. Good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Plus, it has Florence
So
Pugh,
it's
so I can't wait for the next Florence Pugh movie to come out because I'm already a huge fan.
yeah, I agree. She's very good, and she's young to where I think she's going to have a long, good career ahead of her. So that's always a good thing.
Agreed. Oh, you know who she's dating?
Zach Braff.
Boo! I know he's your boy. Pissed me off when I found that out.
I know. Well, so I was listening to their podcast, Real Doctors Fake Friends, and he was like alluding to, you know, his girlfriend, this and that and this and that, and then he's like, I you know, I have Black Widow exclusive and all that other stuff, but because it started last year before it was done filming and all that, and I was like, who is he dating? And then he's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend Florence. I'm like, and so I looked it up. I was like, oh, Florence Pugh is Zach Braff's girlfriend. So
another reason for me to hate his guts.
there's
All right,
only
buddy.
a 20-year difference. It's okay.
Oh, pisses me off. All right, dude. Good stuff this week. I'll see you next week, buddy. Love you.
All right, sounds good. Love you too.